Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. 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 Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Hari Om to everybody. A few days back, we started reading the diary of an aspirant. You all remember, how can we bring spirituality in day-to-day life? In every act of ours, just throw some light on those aspects. Normally we feel, we have separated certain things as spiritual practices, certain things as we have a higher gatings. We have to blend both. Kriya and karma, activities and actions. If it stays at the activity level, we will not be moving towards the Karma Yoga. We may be doing a lot of activities, right from getting up in the morning till we retire to bed. And for years, for decades, we have been doing it. And we know where we are. Now we have been asked by our masters and scriptures that we should try to bring in this dimension. What dimension? To make every activity as a Karma Yoga. Activity and action. Kriya and Karma. So here in this diary of an aspirant, Papa has facilitated us to go through the experience of an aspirant who came under the spell of one Ratnamji, who happened to be a devotee of Bhagavan, Ramana Maharshi. You remember? I will read it again because probably you would have forgotten, and even if we have not forgotten, it is better to hammer it again. When I was living in Tiruvannamalai, that was quite a long time ago, I had to learn the lesson in Shraddha. In fact, if I could sum up everything that I learned in those 13 years, it was Shraddha. Being careful or acting with care. We would add here that Shraddha, Shraddha helps us to refine the activity to a karma. When we do with Shraddha, this is what happens. We mean, consciously we do. I used to do puja every day for about 10 years. Then one day my teacher said, I would just like to see you are doing puja. So I did it in front of him. Then he said, you are not even looking at that image while you are doing it. You are looking at the book, at the bell, at this thing, that thing. What is the Shraddha you are having? What you are doing is called a ritual. Clear. This is not karma. This is not called karma. It is not sadhana. When you take the flowers, look at the flower. Put it at the feet, look at the feet. When you light the incense and you wave the incense in front of the photo, look at the incense, then look at the photo. Imagine that God is able to smell that incense. Look at the nostrils. We are trying to understand what is Kriya and what is Karma. Whatever we do right from the morning, they are all activities. So here is an attempt is being made to transform the activity into a karma, from Kriya to Karma. How? With Shraddha. I would just like to see you are doing puja, the teacher said to the disciple who has written this. I did it in front of him. He said, you are not even looking at that image while you are doing it. You are looking at the book, at the bell, or at this thing or that thing. What is the Shraddha you are having? What you are doing is called a ritual. That is called a karma. It's not a sadhana. When you take the flowers, look at the flower, put it at the feet, look at the feet. When you light the incense and you wave the incense in front of the photo, look at the incense, then look into the photo. Imagine that God is able to smell that incense. Look at the nostrils. When you are offering the food, don't just mumble mantras. Make your hand go right up to the mouth and imagine that God is eating the food. I tried it. Immediately the first time I tried it, I got tremendous concentration. A feeling of love came in my heart toward the object that I was worshipping, which I had never experienced all those years. This is the effect of Shraddha. About bhajan, for example, there is no use just shouting your lungs out, Amma says. Close your eyes, imagine your Ishtadevata, your God, and then sing and try to become one-pointed in that. If you look around when people are doing bhajans, many of them, their eyes are just wandering around. That is not concentration. then they don't get the benefit of doing the bhajan if they do like that. To give a few more examples, one day I had finished washing my clothes. I was putting them on the line. I was just walking away when my teacher said, "Why don't you look at your clothes closely before you walk away?" I looked at them. What is wrong? He said, "Just look at them closely and tell me if you see anything wrong." When I looked, I said, "No, I don't see anything wrong at all." He said, "Did not you notice that the bottom of the clothes are not in line with each other? One is like this, one is like that. They should be in line with each other. Then if you do everything like that in line, your mind will also get in line." Then I wondered, even for hanging up clothes, I have to have Shraddha. Another day he asked me to get some incense, and it was from another building. I was walking to get it, and there were some monkeys playing in the trees. So I was looking at the monkeys. I was looking this side and that side at the monkeys. I finally reached the room, got the stuff. Again while coming back, I was looking at the monkeys. Then my teacher took the incense. "Are you a monkey?" "What do you mean?" "Am I a monkey?" "If you are acting," he said, "you are acting like one of those monkeys. You were supposed to go to the room, get the incense, bring it back. Why are you looking this side and that side like a monkey?" I said, "What is wrong with looking this side or that side?" He said, "It is quite all right for an ordinary person. But for a person who is trying to get a concentrated mind, a person who is trying to realize God, it is not all right. Because if you look this side and that side when you are walking, then when you close your eyes and try to meditate, your mind is going to do exactly the same thing." This sums up the purpose of Shraddha. One day I said to my teacher, "Ratnamji, you seem to be straining yourself so much. Is there any work I could do which would relieve you of one of your burdens?" "Well, why don't you start then picking flowers for the morning worship? You must give them to me by 6 o'clock. To finish in time, you should start the work at 4:30. Before that, it is best for you to attend your nature call, clean your teeth, take your bath, and then you are in a fit condition to do divine service. Work must start by 4:30. That means I must get up at 4 o'clock. It is surprising to find that the indispensable and impossible to give up early morning sleep is easily shaken off when there is necessity to catch a plane at 5. Would not one be up at 3:30? In fact, many of our so-called conveniences are merely unnecessary habits. Most of us sleep too much, eat too much, talk too much, worry too much, thinking that all is necessary. One can reduce life's necessities to the barest minimum to conserve energy and in no way harm one's body. Our lifespan and energy, if properly used, can take us to the spiritual goal in this life itself. Due to our life force in excessive sleeping and other unnecessary activities, we fail to attain what we have to set out to achieve. It is not uncommon to come across people who have been meditating for 20 or 30 years but have made no appreciable progress, nor have they gained any spiritual experience apart from a little peace of mind, fragile though it may be. If one looked closely at their inner lives, one would find they had squandered away their energy through ignorance or carelessness and had frustrated the purpose. If we want water to reach the upper stories of the house quickly, we should make sure that the taps downwards are closed. Likewise, if we wish to attain spiritual progress quickly, we should be very much economical with our energy so the life force can rise higher and higher toward the top of the head through concentration until merging in the supreme reality. It was the middle of winter and although hot in the day, it was very cool at night. In the early morning, the temperature was perhaps 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Not knowing that hot water was available in the ashram bathroom, I kept a stock of water overnight in a drum in my thatched bath. Putting that ice-cold water over my body in the cool morning breeze was a shortcut for going beyond body consciousness. After bathing and dressing, I took a basket into the large ashram flower garden. Although it was pleasant to pick flowers from the extensive garden in the early morning, there was one hitch. The whole area was infested with scorpions and various kinds of snakes, ranging from harmless water snakes to king cobras. Carrying a flashlight was not possible because both hands were needed for the work, and only light was a dim 25-watt bulb in the veranda about 50 yards away. See how we have brought out the whole picture. No? Even the narrative is full of Shraddha. Here was a real lesson to surrender to the Master. Was my mind on the flowers or on the snakes? Gradually I did develop enough trust in Ramana that I did not even think of the snakes and the scorpions. I was never bitten or stung by anything more poisonous than a honeybee or a mosquito. On some mornings there was a torrential downpour as the monsoon season had just started. Downpour or not, flowers must reach the shrine by 6 sharp. I thought of purchasing an umbrella, but Ratnamji would not hear of it. He said that since I wanted to become a monk, I must do with the barest minimum. He showed me how to tie a dhoti in such a way that it served the purpose of an umbrella, something like a poncho out of cotton, no? Like this. While picking flowers, I noticed a peculiar fact about how my mind worked. Even before picking one flower, my eye was on the next one. I was surprised at my lack of concentration. Picking flowers actually became a lesson in concentration and surrender, not to mention patience. After delivering the flowers at the Samadhi, I still had the urge for some more work. Ratnamji said that I could sweep the area around the shrine, wash the front steps leading to it. I am left-handed. So when I picked up the broom and started to sweep, he noticed that I was using what he said was the wrong hand, and in spite of my protest, insisted that only the right hand be used at least while doing divine service. I asked him if it was not a bit of old-fashioned to consider the left hand as the wrong one. He replied that the ancient sages were not fools. Their vision was one of omniscience. They thought that the left hand has a negative vibration and should be only used as an assistant to the right one. If one doubted the sages, I would of course you can do as you like. As I was not bold enough to do that, I struggled to learn sweeping with my right hand. Another problem was that the broom was only about 1.5 feet long. So it was a very old, worn-out one, and I had to bend over in order to sweep properly. The area in front of the shrine was big. Even with a good broom, it would take about half an hour to clean. With a short broom, it took me nearly 45 minutes, and I panted for breath afterwards. I ventured to ask for a better broom. We are poor monks, have to do with the minimum. If necessary, Ramana will supply a better one automatically. Until then, you work with this one. Came the time. I started to wonder what I had gotten myself into by offering to help with Ratnamji's work, but I couldn't back out so soon after having taken it up, so I continued. Small lessons, you know. Whenever he had a few minutes of leisure, Ratnamji came to my room to talk. He told me about his life with Ramana, who had been a strict disciplinarian with his close disciples. Of course, he also showered much affection to all of them and concern for their spiritual progress. For those who were really serious about gaining spiritual experience, he was very strict about all details. A stub of pencil should not be thrown away, even if a new pencil was available, because everything was provided by God and should be used fully and properly. Even waste paper should be used at least for lighting the fire, not just thrown away. Ramdas would cut off the blank edges. Ramana would cut off the blank edges of a newspaper, binding them together, use them for writing small verses or notes. He taught by example that one should take the minimum for oneself and give the maximum to others. Minimum for oneself, maximum to others. Even on his deathbed, when taking his last breath, he insisted that those who had come to see him should be allowed to do so. His was a selfless and desireless existence, and he expected the same from his disciples. In those days, there were 4 or 5 men attending Ramana in shifts. When Ratnamji joined the ashram, they asked him which shift he preferred. He replied that he would take whatever was remaining after they had all made their own choices. So many clues are there, no? It is not simply the narrative drawn out from the leaf of a diary of an aspirant. Full of clues, each one. We are just reading. We will just see how many stays with us in our mind. Simple one. Of course, nobody wanted the night shift from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. as that meant no sleep. This shift was given to Ratnamji. He said that because he had put himself last and was ready to take the worst part, he actually got the best. Because at night, no one would be in the ashram and he would be alone with Ramana in the hall. Ramana slept very little, and she taught Ratnamji many things. There was also no one else around. In a very short time, Ratnamji learned more from Ramana than would be possible in many years. By talking to me and sharing his experiences, Ratnamji made me feel that I was his own child or a younger brother and suggested many things in matters of diet, yoga, meditation. Gradually our relationship deepened. It slowly dawned on me Ratnamji was the answer to my prayer for a guru. He had been meticulously trained by Ramana and was a wise man in his own right. I went to him one day and told him, I feel that you are my guru. You are mistaken, he said. You and I have the same guru, that is Ramana Bhagavan. As far as I am concerned, you are my younger spiritual brother. I felt disappointed and it obviously showed on my face. Well, if it will make you feel better, you can consider me as an instrument of Ramana given to you by him in order to show you the way. See the way in which so the self-effacement is there. No? Still the care and concern for sadhaka is also dominant in him. But I must warn you now, he says, in my 28 years here, Ratnamji with Ramana Bhagavan, I have never met a single person who was able to keep up with me. I have to maintain the standards shown to me by my guru, and those who want to move with me will have to do the same. I have never chased anyone away, but most have gone of their own accord because they could not keep up with my pace. I decided then and there that even if I should die in the attempt, I would never leave him or fall by the wayside. I asked him what were the duties of a disciple. He said after developing faith in a master, one should implicitly obey whatever he may say, knowing that it is only with your spiritual betterment in mind that he asks you to do anything in a particular way. If you don't have full faith in a saint, it is better not to take him as your master. But if you do, you must be unquestioningly obedient. Even in worldly knowledge, you must follow the instructions of your teacher in order to learn and get the desired results. This is much more so if you want spiritual experience, which is far more subtle and complex than worldly knowledge. Obedience. Though I knew the meaning of the word, I had no practical experience. From my childhood onwards, I consistently disobeyed my mother, my teachers, and the society. Mine was a life of anarchy, to do as I liked, and when and how I liked. I could, however, understand that one must obey prescribed rules to achieve a particular goal. I wanted the experience of absolute bliss, and I felt that Ratnamji had it and was willing to show me the way to attain it. Certainly, it would be no great difficulty to obey him. However, for the next 8 years of our relationship until his demise, obedience was my main spiritual practice and struggle. One who is obedient to a real sage slowly attains lasting peace of mind. The same God-conscious state experienced by the sage is gradually experienced by oneself. It is something like tuning a radio. The numerous radio waves pervade the atmosphere, but we will hear only those to which our radio is tuned. Our minds are like a radio, continuously receiving gross stimuli through the five senses and subtly through the minds and vibrations of other living beings. The subtlest of our principle is, of course, the truth of God. It has been told to us by those who have experienced it that God can be known only when the mind becomes extremely subtle, pure, serene. To reach that state requires continuous training, uncompromising supervision by one who knows God perfectly. Our actions and speech follow the dictates of our mind. One's mental condition can be fairly well judged when one's words and actions are observed, although there are such things as hidden motives which we need not consider now. Spiritual aspirants through the ages have also learned that one can alter one's mental condition by changing one's actions and words. This is the essence of the relationship between a real sage and a sincere disciple. The disciple desires the experience of reality, but due to erroneous thinking and acting, that experience is impossible to attain unless the errors of his ways are pointed out and corrected. When the mind is purified, the indwelling truth will shine forth spontaneously, free from obstructing forces. A real saint merely points out one's errors, helps one to correct oneself. When the mind has reached its pure condition, everything will be achieved effortlessly in a moment. Though the advice of the master may at times make no sense, when one's spiritual experience deepens, one can fully understand the significance of such instructions. Until then, obedience is the only way. Of course, each one must observe and try to judge whether a particular individual is fit to be a guide on the spiritual path, although it is admittedly very difficult to judge whether another is enlightened or not. Although fearlessness, selflessness, absence of sensuality, sense of equality towards all are some of the distinguishing characteristics of a realized soul, they may not always manifest in an obvious way. Ultimately, our intuition must decide. It seems to be nature's law that a sincere aspirant does eventually gain the company of a real saint, though there may be some delay. About 1 month after I met Ratnamji, I realized that my daily routine had changed drastically. What had started out as a little help to relieve him of his burden came to be a full-time job for me. I had practically no time to sit and meditate. As my love and admiration for him increased, so also did the time I spent with him until I was moving with him 24 hours a day. I closely observed his way of life and his words to me and others. He told me many times that I should not accept anything he said simply because it was he that he said it. I should reflect deeply on whether or not it was correct, and if there was any doubt, I should ask him. With this wonderful man, there was neither spoon-feeding nor dictatorship. He wanted me to develop through my own intelligence. He was the guide, but I was the driver. Day for yesterday, we shared, after, in the first chapter, Arjuna placed before him Karpanya Dosha Mahada Svabhava. He said, I am unable to decide what to do or what not to do. And then the lecture started. After the 17 chapters were over, and the 18th chapter, then Lord Krishna felt that whatever he wanted to convey, he had conveyed. He did not impose on him. Though in between you would have said, those who surrender to me, they will come to me. All those things he has said. But then, before the end of the 18th chapter, the Lord says, what I have told you, but whatever you feel is right, you do it. This freedom is given to us. Of course, though the freedom was given, Arjuna said, whatever you have told, I will complete you. But here we find that clue, the teacher does not impose a dictum or a dogma. So here also Ratnamji told him, you should do. Papa emphatically said, Papa clearly given this. Just because it was told by Ramdas, don't accept. Unless you get a clear, go ahead sign from within. Through mere superficial churning of thought, Ramdas's words cannot be understood. You can throw a light on them only when you bring with you the blazing torch of your own perfected experience. Experience is gained by diving into the depths of your mind. Clearly says that. I'm not going to get it now. So he was very particular that we, whatever is given to us, it should become mine. Otherwise, it becomes the teacher's. So he talks about obedience. Finally, he says, intuitively you will know. So he wanted me to develop through my own intelligence. He was the guide, and I was the driver. Though he never asked me to do anything, I expanded my work from picking flowers and sweeping to cleaning his room, arranging his personal puja, bringing hot water for his bath in the morning, acting as a secretary for his English correspondence and various other jobs. I reduced my sleep to 5 hours, felt none the worse for it. If anything, I was more fresh and alert. Also, I found that eating 2 square meals a day without anything in between was more than enough and kept my body light. If I felt that Ratnamji needed any supplement to his normal diet, I purchased it unasked by him. His needs were extremely minimal. I started to sleep on the floor as he was doing it and found it more comfortable than a bed. Once one gets used to a simple life, one can live anywhere happily, even if one has nothing. Because we cannot get some of our so-called necessities, we suffer no end of mental worry and agitation. If a luxurious room with a thick mattress, a TV and an attached bathroom are not available, many of us feel as if life is unbearable. Actually, 6 feet of space anywhere, even under a tree, is quite enough for anyone who is healthy. The attitude of the mind makes all the difference. Within a few days of my moving to a new room, Ratnamji came to see the place, had a look around the room. He said it would be better to cook my own food than to take it from the family. It would be cheaper and a great help for my spiritual life. According to Ratnamji, food once cooked becomes sensitive to those who handle it. Like a magnet, it picks up, retains vibration. If those who handle the food are full of negative or worldly thoughts, some of those thoughts will find their way into our mind after ingesting the food. The subtle thoughts affect the subtle body of our mind, while the gross part goes to build the physical body. This has little bearing on worldly people, as they are not very concerned with molding the contents of their mind. But a spiritual aspirant, however, must be very careful to reduce and purify his thoughts. Only in the absolutely thought-free mind can the real self shine forth unobstructed. By cooking for oneself, one gradually becomes able to ascertain which are one's thoughts, which are the thoughts of others. When maximum time is spent trying to tame and concentrate the mind, one comes to see the value of it. He also said that one should not hesitate to accept food from someone who has attained a high level of spiritual realization than oneself, as that one can help spiritually. He told me to purchase a cheap kerosene stove and some earthenware pots along with the raw foods. The rest of the portion we will take it up. Lots of clues have been given to us. The main thrust has been given that we should consciously do everything. So there's the three mantras, Nothing is unimportant, nothing is irrelevant, nothing is insignificant. We have to keep on hammering because very time our mind has got some priorities, this can be done like that. But a person who wants to control his mind, to make it fit to take to inward journey, to have a glimpse of the presence of the God within, these are all necessary. Papa had put it in a beautiful way. Outer activities should be compatible with inner aspiration. Outer activities should be compatible with inner aspiration. Everything. So now we know that spiritual life is not limited to spending some time in rituals, darshan, svadhyay, pilgrimage, worship of a deity. They are all aids, no doubt. But what is more is, during the other times, what we do matters much. However much we hear, we may forget, but we keep on pumping this area. We had shared with you, but for those who are hearing it for the first time, we will again repeat. When Pujya Swamiji was asked to go to some nearby temple for some program, we also accompanied. So in a short speech delivered in Malayalam, he brought out a beautiful, subtle idea. He said the temples are in every locality, Why? Because of our preoccupation with so many things, we may not be, though we are devotees, we may not be bringing this God dimension behind every activity of ours. There should be a constant reminder. So if the temple serves this purpose. But we say the temple serves this purpose only when keep regular visit to the temple with the proper mental attitude. He said when you start from your house to the temple, you must prepare your mind. Ensure that no other thought comes in. You start chanting, you start bringing any shlokas, you start thinking about the various experiences the devotees got from that deity. Something like that, the mind is fully charged, fully conditioned, fully involved in something other than the usual routine thoughts. With such a mind, when we go to the temple, and when we place ourselves before the sanctum, the deity in the sanctum sanctorum, is that the real darshan is inside, that we will get a glimpse of it by looking at the deity. Because we have prepared the mind. We now remember this. So whatever we have now read, is preparing the mind to absorb. He was telling about the radio, Nowadays people may not know about the radio. But in good old times, it was there. Now it is TV, okay. Unless it is tuned to that particular station or channel, we will not get it. So we have to somehow bring it. Many of us, the moment we start coming to ashram, the life and mission of the Mahatmas here, it will well up in our mind. And the moment we get down from the station, when we get into the auto or taxi, our mind will be anxious. When Pujya Mataji was there, we were anxious, to see her. No other things mattered. As soon as we get down at the flag post, we rush towards Pujya Mataji's room. The only thought is to have her darshan. We remember that. And then once we enter the room and have the darshan, and in her own way she will say, "Chai udjo, unugaicho." You had your tea, you had your meal. Then, as if we had got tons and tons of something which is so pleasant. The mind is unknowingly prepared. Suppose we are thinking about so many things, we may not be able to derive it. So we are all the blessed ones who have been given the taste. We would not have applied our mind that God enabled us to concentrate on this particular thought at the exclusion of all other dissimilar thoughts. That is why even today we remember to think about our visits to various places, to think about our association with noble people, not necessarily saints. Any noble person. When we go there, when we try to associate on the Gogurashtami day, when we were hearing the Meera Bhajans of the revered MS, we were just thinking, during our Madras days, every year on the 30th of January, we used to go to Gandhi Mandap in Adayar. There MS will come and render the same. And she will be in tears. When Hari Tumaharo or Vaishnava Janato is sung, she will be in tears. Her adopted daughter, Radhamma by name, she was in a place where one of her colleagues stayed. So we casually asked, why this coming out of bhakti? Then, after checking up with MS, probably she conveyed to her colleague that she was remembering the days when she was sitting before Bapuji Gandhiji and rendering this. So she was at that moment, though she was sitting in the Adayar Mandapam, mentally she was placing herself before Bapuji himself. And that gave her the feeling of tons and tons of that pleasant feeling. That means mind is not going anywhere. Those big guardians are there, And when Emma sings, she will close her eyes and then take us to her heights. These are some of the clues which get kindled when we go through the diary of a sincere aspirant. So let us all take out the maximum benefit out of it. We are deeply again thankful to Papa for facilitating all these for us so that our spiritual journey gets hastened. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram 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 Om Shri Ram Jai Ram. Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram Jai Ram. Jai Jai Ram Om. Shri Ram Jai Ram. Jai Jai Ram Om. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram.